students, what we're looking at today is just a review of how we round, including rounding decimals, and we're going to start with rounding a whole number and sort of translate to how we would round decimals as well. And then you're going to practice it on IXL. So let's take a look at our first number. Here we have round to the nearest hundred, 3,454 and 12 hundredths. Notice over here this is hundred, not hundredths, so we know we've got to find the hundredths place. So units, then tens, then hundredths. Oh, looks like I can stop there. I found my hundredths place. Now, starting here from left to right, the same way that I write and read, I'm going to underline and then square off my two numbers. Now I'm just looking at 45 because I remember if I can round to the nearest 10, I can round to anything. So 45 rounds to 50. Anything to the left remains. We don't want to change the value too much, so that 3,000 is going to matter. Only the things to the right are going to be replaced with zeros, and we do that because when we're rounding, we like zero the hero. That makes it easier to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I also noticed that while these ones hold the tens place and the hundreds place, or the units in the tens place, these ones with the tenths and the hundredths, they don't really hold any places, do they? They just mean 0 tenths, 0 hundredths. So I can erase those. I don't need to have those as part of my number. So I would say that 3,454 and 12 hundredths rounds to 3,500 for the nearest hundred. What about an example that has rounding to a nearest decimal? Let's look at this one. Here we have round to the nearest tenth, and my number is 357 and 5,212 10,000ths. That's where I really emphasize the th, because you'll notice this says th. So that means we're looking at something that's 1/10 the size of a unit. That's very different than 10 units, isn't it? So we've got to pay attention to that. Otherwise, my strategy works exactly the same. I find the place I need to round to. All right, here I know is my units. Here I know is my tens. Ah, I remember that mirror, so this has to be the tenths place. So I'm going to, from left to right, put a square around my tenths, and the smaller place next to it, the hundredths. And I know that 52 rounds to 50. I keep my decimal there because that changes the value a lot if I don't keep that in there. These numbers stay the same because I'm not rounding to those places. I don't want to turn them into zeros. That would severely change the value of my number, wouldn't it? Instead of 357, I would just have 50 hundredths. That's a big difference. And of course, these become zeros, the heroes. Again, what I notice here is my units and my tens and my hundreds all have digits that need to be in there to hold some place value. But over here, if I get rid of these, that doesn't change the value because they're not holding any places in the number. So rounding to the nearest tenth, in this case, would be 357 and 5 tenths. Now what if we're looking at to the nearest whole number? You might see something that says something like this: round to the nearest whole number. And whenever you see whole number, I want you to remember what they're really asking you is to round to the nearest unit. Because that's the first place that comes after the tenths place. It's the first number that isn't a tiny fraction of something else. So, just like I've been doing before, I'm going to find my units. Oh, found it right away. It's always to the left of my decimal point, so luckily I know where that is. And I'm going to, just as before, take a look at two digits at a time. I know how to round 24. That rounds to 20. I keep my decimal there. That's a very important decimal. My tens place stays the same, and my hundredths goes to 0. Will it change the value if I get rid of those zeros? No, that just means 0 units, or 0 tenths and 0 hundredths, I mean. So I can get rid of those. They don't change the value. Looks like I am left with the number 22. So now it's your turn. Take a look at our example here. Round to the nearest tenth. 31 and 91 thousandths. So, pause the video so that you can try the strategy for yourself. So let's see how you did. Let's see. I found my tenths place. I put a square on my tenths and hundredths. I have 9. I know 9 rounds to 10. I wrote 10 underneath. I kept these digits the same. These ones became zeros. And I remember that in this case, it's not going to change the value, so I can erase those. So my answer is 31 and 1/10. That sounds about right, because we want the tenths place to be the last place that we mentioned. So if you did that, good job. Let's try one more example. Here we have round to the nearest whole number. 5 and 752 thousandths. Pause the video, try it for yourself. Remember, what place do they want us to round to when it's whole number? If you don't remember, go back to that part of the video again. Let's see how you did. I found my units place and my tenths, put a square around them. 57 rounds to 60. And then I know these become zeros. I think that I remember that in this place value, this isn't going to change the value of my number. So I am left with 6. So that makes sense, right? The nearest whole number means I shouldn't have any fractions of a number. So if you did that, great job. If not, please watch the video again to get caught up on what you're supposed to be doing. So great job working with me today. Your job now is to go to IXL.com for your grade level, go to decimals, and click on the one that says round decimals. I'm not giving you the letter and the number because it's different for whether you're in 4th grade or whether you're in 5th grade. So go ahead and find it, practice your rounding decimal skills. And if you're having trouble, you can always watch this video again.